Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have a mighty game review of a game titled Valheim. Some of you may have heard about this game, and I'm going to actually dive in and weigh in my opinions about Valheim here right now. We'll begin with developer is Iron Gate. The publisher is Coffee Stain Publishing, not to be confused with another stain.
Yeah, talk to Raven.
It is made with the Unity engine, and it was released for early access February 2nd, 2021, and it is a sandbox survival game. The story is you are a Viking in the afterlife, but instead of going to Valhalla, you are diverted to Valheim to deal with a problem that has arisen. Yay! I'm not old and shit. Not all the time.
And then the other log.
I'm not gonna dive too deeply into the story because honestly I really haven't focused a whole ton on the story, but I am going to talk about the game itself because I got a hell of a lot of hours in the game. I think I have up to 75 hours before doing this review. Sounds wise, the sound is not bad. The music really isn't bad. Nothing super special on that end. The character creation of the game really just works. It's a bunch of pre-made stuff that you can slap together to create your character. You can do some shade and color changes, but you don't get the advanced changes that you can make in, say, like Fallout New Vegas or Skyrim or even Conan Exiles. But then again, this game is in early access, and that didn't really bother me. And honestly, well, it just works. And honestly, because of it being peer-to-peer based, there's also servers, but with the game being peer-to-peer based, it's probably better that they actually went that route, to be honest. Graphics-wise, well, it looks like something that should have been on a PlayStation 2. That being said, though, generally speaking, the graphics do work out pretty good, I feel, because, well, I know when I'm looking at a pick, I know when I'm looking at an axe, I know when I'm looking at a bit of armor. So nothing really super special on that end. That, like, it's pretty much one of those that the graphics are functional and good enough that I can tell what I'm looking at when I'm looking at it. So honestly, the fact that the graphics are nothing super special does not actually bother me one bit. But I do want to throw out there that they're nothing super special either. Honestly, though, one of the high points of the game, mechanics-wise, is sailing. The sailing mechanics are actually really good, where you actually have to steer the boat, use the boat, the whole 9 yards. Wind direction actually does become a factor when doing it. The other thing they also did right is, like, my group right now, we have the longship, and we can actually go up rivers in it and practically land it on land. We've actually already done a couple, like, Viking type assaults where we just beach the boat essentially and jump off and just start hacking and slashing in all directions. A lot of fun right there. Mechanics in general, honestly, the mechanics are actually pretty good. Everything's been pretty good mechanics wise, and a lot of it makes sense. The only thing that really irritates me is the when it comes to building, you need to build by a workbench. And just constantly having a workbench nearby is just a pain in the butt. It gets really frustrating, especially when you have an area that you've already edged out as, like, your base, that you have, like, a wall all the way around it, and you just want to modify or repair something, but you don't have a workbench nearby. So you got to build a freaking workbench, and you can start doing whatever you need to do. Generally speaking, I didn't see any major glitches to the game, which honestly, I greatly appreciate that. That is one thing that I hammer really hard about with games, is seeing glitches, especially game-breaking glitches. Little minor glitches, which, don't get me wrong, this game does have some minor glitches. But honestly speaking, I haven't seen anything major when it comes to the end of glitches. And I'm really surprised because it is an early access game. So I definitely have to tip my hat off to these guys and say, when it comes to not having glitches, 10 out of 10. Because there's no one like that anymore. At least there's no, like I said, there's a couple glitches I did see, but they were basically so minor that they just didn't matter. Gear. Oh boy, gear drop. Yeah, you drop your gear on death. Um, it's okay. I can deal with it. It sucks at times, especially if you died in the plains. Uh, Generally speaking, I don't really have a problem with the losing my gear on death and being able to run back and get my gear. It does suck, but it's something I'm actually familiar with and used to. The problem is, and the reason I'm pointing out the gear dropping gear on death thing is because a lot of survival games such as Ark and Conan Exiles, you could actually set your server settings up that you don't drop your gear on death. So it does definitely have to be mentioned here that you do drop gear on death.
There's a news by it.
The next thing to point out in the game is that the grind can be really bad, and I do mean, oh my god, the grind can be really bad. Especially when it comes to silver. It takes quite a bit of effort to get silver because it's up in the mountains and it's buried underground, and you need a wishbone to find it. And if you don't have a wishbone when you go looking for silver, it takes you a fucking near decade to find silver. And then it takes forever to dig the shit out of the ground. So, yeah, that can be quite annoying in itself. All that being said, though, it is it's an open world survival game. I expected that, essentially. The next thing I really want to point out, too, in the game is that supplies. Supplies can really keep your hands full. Constantly getting food, getting wood, getting stone so you can build, getting your different materials so you can build new weapons and new armor. That can be a really grindy process. And it can really keep your hands full. That being said, once again, it is a survival game. I expected that. But I'm pointing that out for people who more or less aren't necessarily familiar with the survival game genre. Generally, with all that being said, I felt that the game is actually really good and doesn't really have all the crap that you expect from AAA games. And I'm not just talking about glitches here, folks. I'm talking about shitty story moments, mediocre voice lines, glitches, a really dumb, overinflated price tag because, come on, some of these $60 AAA titles are worth nowhere near $60. And all that being said, I really fucking enjoyed this game. I had a lot of fun with it, even though at times it really felt like I was beating my dick against a steel rod. Now, there is one more thing I do want to complain about in the game, and that's this thing, the Death Skeeto. Now, if you haven't played Valheim, you're not very familiar with the Death Skeeto, but I'm going to try and put this in perspective. It is like a small nuclear bomb that cannot take a hit, and when it does hit you, it kills you. So this is what I have to say about the Death Skeeto. Fuck this thing with a pineapple! Anyway, folks, I do highly recommend this game. It is $20 on Steam. It is in early access. And honestly, I got my $20 worth out of Valheim. Like I said, I'm up to 70 hours into playing this game. And honestly speaking I'm not a big-time survival game junkie. Like, I really liked The Forest, and I really liked Conan Exiles, but there really wasn't any other survival games out there I liked, and there was a couple like Green Hell that showed promise, but I just quickly kind of lost interest in Green Hell, and Ark, I just never could get into Ark. I know that's like supposed to be like the big dick, end-all, be-all survival game, and it's like, honestly, in my opinion, Ark really wasn't that good. And Valheim did a lot of things right that the other survival games just did wrong. And it also did everything right that those other survival games did. Just generally speaking, it is a really good survival game. Yes, it can be really challenging, And it, like I said, sometimes it feels like I'm beating my dick on a fucking steel rod. But other than that, it's actually a really good game. And the challenges in the game are more than welcome at times because it just really does break up the monotony of the game itself, especially when it comes to constantly gathering supplies, which, yeah, that can really keep your hands full. So, folks, realistically, like I said, it is an early access. It's $20. There's a reason why the game became the top game on Steam literally a month after it had been released. And it's still one of the top games on Steam and has sold over 5 million copies. So, or actually, I think it might be 500 million. Okay, don't quote me on how many copies it sold. But it sold fucking millions because it's fucking good. Anyway, buy this game. Valheim. Thank you very much for tuning in, folks. Hopefully you all enjoyed my review. Thank you very much for watching. And have yourself a wonderful day.